Welcome, ladies and gents. This is a Hollywood Reporter article. Is Disney bad at Star Wars? An analysis. I saw this and yeah, very, very comical, quite frankly. It's a pretty good takedown from mainstream media of Disney's sort of venture into Star Wars, which I don't think a lot of people would be expecting. I mean, not from mainstream media, obviously. They always have a vested interest in keeping the Mouse House happy. But yeah, James Hibbard here for the Hollywood Reporter wrote quite an interesting article. So I thought we'd take a look at it because basically, yeah, you can't really deny it. High budgets, scrapped projects, fan backlash. It's been 12 years since Disney bought Star Wars and its galaxy far, far away arguably has too many broken toys. Ha! You think that was something we said? No, this is mainstream media. There's an exchange in Star Wars The Force Awakens when Rey and Finn are fleeing from stormtroopers and searching for a way to escape. Rey spots the legendary Millennium Falcon, declares it looks like garbage, and then quickly reconsiders the garbage will do. Increasingly, that's the attitude some fans have about Star Wars from Disney. Look, we all know this isn't fantastic anymore, but Star Wars is still Star Wars, and therefore it will do. That's outrageous. That's madness that they're saying this. To be fair, Disney Star Wars shows and movies remain far from space junk. Their titles typically get glowing reviews from critics and generate box office returns and streaming ratings that other studios would envy. Huh, do they though? So let's run through Disney Star Wars legacy to date, from The Force Awakens to The Acolyte, and see what conclusions might be drawn. Because several aspects of the company's track record admittedly look shaky. A 5-movie franchise that was halted after its box office returns trended the wrong direction, 6 live-action TV shows, just one of which has been a multi-season hit, a startling number of projects put into development and then abandoned, like Starships on Bracca, and one wildly ambitious roleplay hotel that closed after little more than a year. It raises a question: is Disney kind of bad at Star Wars? Yeah, obviously. Or is this a case where a very high bar for success combined with a passionate fandom's gripes tend to obscure what is otherwise a hugely popular and lucrative franchise? Let's take a closer look. No, it's not. So they say this, the films: let the past die, kill it if you have to. Now, their analysis is quite interesting, actually. So they say after buying Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012, Disney relaunched Star Wars as a franchise trilogy in 2015 with director J.J. Abrams' The Force Awakens. The film was an absolute blockbuster, yet surprisingly, and as it turned out, problematically, the studio did not have a firm creative plan for the next 2 films. Idiots. So Rian Johnson's sequel, The Last Jedi, took the story in a different direction that many loved and many didn't. Then Abrams returned with The Rise of Skywalker and tried to push the narrative closer to his original intentions. Comedians learn in improv class to always say yes and to any idea introduced during a show, no matter how challenging. The studio and Abrams' reaction to The Last Jedi was more like, no, actually. Rey is a nobody, no, she's a Palpatine. The result was a trilogy that's a mishmash of dueling creative visions. Lucas took a similar I'm making this up as I go approach to his original trilogy, but it's far easier to maintain a saga's cohesion when all the films are led by the same person, which is true, because you might make it up along, but it's still your story. And then they say this: the film's box office also told a story. So basically, The Force Awakens, 2 billion. Jedi went to 1.3, and then The Rise of Skywalker was a billion, which is not great at all. And they even say this: they're good numbers, but they're trending in the wrong way. And when the third entry in your trilogy, who is designed to launch a new franchise, sells half the tickets as the first, you've made the wrong turn. It says this: around the same time, the studio experimented with 2 standalone titles. There was 2016's gorgeous looking and compelling, if wildly uneven, Rogue One, earning $1 billion. I still like Rogue One. And 2018's widely panned Solo, which made a disastrous, for the franchise, $393 million. Oof. Both had behind-the-scenes drama and reshoots that saw their original directors being replaced during filming, which is hilarious and awful. So after Rise of Skywalker, Disney paused making big-screen Star Wars movies altogether, but continued to announce new films in development from top creatives. This is hilarious, by the way. They have announced... There's so many crap that they've announced that this just not happened. So this says, the list of well-known writers and directors who've come and gone is comically long. This is the Hollywood Reporter saying this. Rian Johnson, David Benioff and Dan Weiss. So Rian Johnson was supposed to do a trilogy. David Benioff and Dan Weiss were supposed to do a trilogy. Patty Jenkins, Colin Trevorrow, Damon Lindelof, David S. Goyer, Josh Trank, Del Toro, Taika Waititi, Kevin Feige, and there's more, by the way. This isn't it. There's actually substantially more than this. And they say this. Some of their projects were confidentially announced as movies that were definitely happening until they weren't. And there are others which were never revealed publicly. If there's more than that, that's not even it. There's a bigger list. If all this seems rather chaotic for a studio that's famously meticulous, well, yes, it does. The charitable read is that Star Wars movies should be very special, and the studio is determined to get them right. A batch of projects are still in the works. James Mangold is developing a Dawn of the Jedi feature. Sean Levy is working on an untitled film. Jenkins' Rogue Squadron was resurrected this year, and Lindelof's feature starring Daisy Ridley's Rey has shifted to Sharmina Obaid-Chinoy, and it's uncertain which of these, if any, will be made. That's awful. Even as the studio spat out announcement after announcement on the film side, Disney largely switched its focus to bringing Star Wars to TV for Disney+. I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. This is all the TV shows. And then in raw numbers, it's bad. So once again, Disney also came out of the gate incredibly strong. 2019 debut season of Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian nearly single-handedly made Disney Plus an out-of-the-box success, charmed critics and audiences, and was even nominated for an Emmy for Best Drama. The Mandalorian proved live-action Star Wars on TV was possible. It's easy to forget that this show was considered a big gamble at the time, which, true, yeah, it was. And then, it's just gone downhill, downhill, downhill. In Season 3, The Mandalorian creatively stumbled a bit, ratings slipped, and the show received backlash for the first time. So instead of a fourth season, Disney's now decided to pivot The Mandalorian to launch its first Star Wars feature film since The Rise of Skywalker, coming next in 2026. I was going to say next year. The Mandalorian and Grogu will probably perform well, yet it also looks like Disney spent many years and untold capital struggling to develop a new Star Wars movie, and its best idea was an extra long episode of a TV show. Jesus. They're getting nuked here. From The Mandalorian came 2021's spin-off The Book of Boba Fett, which is where some problems with the franchise's TV efforts first emerged. So much about this brief effort was weirdly clunky. 2 Mandalorian episodes were inexplicably sandwiched into the show's 7, and they felt like a band-aid effort to repair a struggling show. The Book of Boba Fett was originally a series, not a mini-series, but it was quickly considered concluded. Good. And there have been 4 new shows since. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sure, what happened? So it says here, anyway, Obi-Wan Kenobi opened to 1 billion minutes of viewing, and according to Nielsen, even bigger than Mando Season 3's opening, and concluded with a strong 860 million for its finale. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a limited series, however, there are no current plans for more episodes. Andor. That did not do very, very well at all. The show was massively expensive, budget estimated to be as high as 250 million for 12 episodes. Critics and fans loved it, but it didn't get that money. Not a lot of people watched it, basically, which is not good. It's actually the best reviewed live-action Star Wars TV show to date, so that's good. But Andor's ratings did not reflect that. So it opened with 624 million minutes and fell to 400 million minutes in subsequent weeks and jumped back up to 674 million for its finale. So still not great, but it is what it is. Tony Gilroy originally pitched 5 seasons, and now he's got to just do 2, so that's not good either. As I say, Ahsoka from Clone Wars, Dave Filoni, now in the live-action driver's seat for the first time. The show received positive reviews and a somewhat mixed reaction from fans. Ahsoka's premiere ratings were comparable to the Mandalorian Season 3 opener, and then it declined. Good. To an average of around 570 million minutes for the rest of its run. A second season was announced as in development in January, and sources say the new season will go into production next year. The Acolyte, Jesus. The series was set 100 years before The Phantom Menace and had franchise's most diverse cast, along with several female leads. The New York Times revealed that the 8-episode series cost, and this is wrong, we've got the actual figures for this, it's $231 million. It's around £170 million, which is $231 million. So that's dumb, but never mind. The Acolyte had positive critic reviews, kind of-ish, and then everyone hated it, basically. So, yes. And it says this: the Acolyte's backlash and criticism is difficult to pass, as many fans detail their creative objections to the show's storytelling and its bold take on Jedi lore. Just because we didn't like this doesn't mean we're racist, basically. Some other Acolyte bashers were, well, clearly racist. I disagree with that, but sure, fine, whatever. And this has just been a complete bomb, massively. And then there's even more they start commenting on. So they say, look, Disney's launching John Watts, Christopher Ford's Skeleton Crew. Sure, we'll see how that happens. And then they break this down. We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope. So this is what they're going to do in future. So that's 6 live-action TV shows in 5 years. Just one, The Mandalorian, has been an outright hit with critics and fans and has delivered a multi-season run, which is the traditional model for TV success. This doesn't mean a single season of TV cannot be a win. No, true, but sure. Limited series are considered hits all the time, but there's a reason popular close-ended limited series like the debut seasons of The White Lotus and Shogun were given second season orders and became ongoing series. Making a show that can run for multiple seasons is the typical goal, even for streamers, because it encourages subscribers to stick around. There are also considerable startup costs to making something new, particularly in the fantasy space. Enormous amounts of production, costume and prop design, and all-around world building. The Acolyte Season 1 took 4 years to make, but a second season would have likely only taken half that time. With an ongoing series, a company doesn't have to work so hard to spend so much to keep re-earning its audience. One would think Disney would have wanted more juice from some of these squeezes. So what is left for Disney Plus after Skeleton Crew? Final season of Andor, second season of Ahsoka. In 2020, Disney bullishly announced 10 new Star Wars shows at an investor event, heralding a glorious new era of Star Wars TV. And that was... so those entries include Lando, which is now going to be a movie, Rangers of the New Republic, which has been scrapped, the prospect of being left with a single ongoing live-action Star Wars show after Andor concludes surely wasn't the company's hope coming out of that announcement. Fuck. They're so bad. So bad. Hanging over all of this is the suspicion that the company may have wrung out the rag, creatively speaking, on storylines culled from Lucas's original trilogy and his prequels. Even the Acolyte's haters should give the show credit for telling a story that's far removed from the Skywalker saga. This isn't entirely Disney's fault, but it's one that challenges moving forward. Oh my god. Companies enjoyed more consistent results on the animated side. And it just continues further, basically. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, who has produced some of the most beloved and iconic movies in cinema history, in addition to successfully relaunching Star Wars in cinemas with The Force and trailblazing into TV with Mando, has overseen Star Wars since 2012. And any mention of Kennedy amid a look at the Star Wars track record cannot be separated from the fact that she has been the target of hateful and ugly attacks from the fandom. South Park also piled on by mocking her in a recent episode. Still, Kennedy shouldn't be considered immune from criticism. The one thing recent political headlines have shown is the myth of only I can do it leadership. And then they got this stupid Star Wars hotel. Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser cost $1 billion, and then they just scrapped it after a year. After an absolute year. Just gone. So during a presentation in March to fight an activist investor, the company... so Disney revealed Lucasfilm generated nearly $12 billion in total revenue. That's wrong, actually. A lot of that was projected, by the way, so it wasn't actually actual growth. So to get back to the big question in the headline, is Disney bad at Star Wars? On balance, no. Yes, it is. And you've literally listed many, many reasons why it is bad. So what are they saying? Could Disney be better at Star Wars? Clearly, yes. So this is the cope that they run. I mean, it's just insane. A true sign of failure would be apathy and disinterest. Yeah, you're getting that from people now, actually. Like, you really are getting that. So, I just thought this was hilarious. They take Disney down a peg, and then they still run cover at the very end. It's very interesting. But what do you guys think of this? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Take care. Bye-bye now.